The impact not only on the people around you, but the impact on yourself when you had to make a decision.
I knew about Black folks from my family and the excellence that was in my family, but I was not around other kids like me. You know, unfortunately, the Black kids were usually the kids that were causing trouble or in trouble. It was very, the diversity was just not there in the places I was. In those other environments, I was made to feel special, but not in that way of, oh, you're a special kid, you're gonna do great things, but special, you're not like the others kind of special. I don't have to represent a whole set of people or a whole culture. I can now be myself within a culture or just whatever I want. It just changed a lot. That sort of experience led me to be able to make decisions about, okay, I'm gonna do something creative here. I'm gonna do something corporate here.
He had never done that before.
No clue.
And we were hook or crook on this thing, trying to make this budget go far. And I was just like, well, I got this. He's a photographer. He's trying to get his name out there. Can you do this for free?
I realized a long time ago, as much as I like data and facts, and so I can't live my life based on those things. I oftentimes go against the data. My wife will tell you that, like, you're not making the right judgment.
I know this new journey hasn't been easy and money has been tight, but I truly believe that when you chase your purpose and stay consistent, the right opportunities will always find you. Welcome to Beauty and the Beast, where we create a safe haven for Black men to engage in deep conversations and share their journeys in a judgment-free space.
In each episode, we dive into topics that matter. This is a space where your story is valued, your voice is heard, and your journey is shared with others who, like you, may feel alone in the world. Let's break the myth that Black men are beasts.
Welcome to Beauty and the Beast. Let's start the conversation. Zuri, Standback. We got you on Beauty and the Beast podcast. Thank you for being here, man.
Happy to be here, man.
So, this podcast, and you just said it right, we were rolling. You were like, I don't even know what we're talking about. So I like to do that on purpose because I don't want anybody to have any preconceived notions. But what do we talk about? So we talk about your journey. But when we talk about that journey, we don't talk about it from an A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3 perspective. We talk about the journey, but we want to know the emotional journey that comes with it, right? The impact not only on the people around you, but the impact on yourself. Now, how did you feel when you had to make a decision or didn't make a decision? A lot of times in life, people, assume, well, he made some great decisions in his life, right? What people don't realize is that was just a decision at the time, and a couple of years went by, and they're like, well, that netted into this thing, and I didn't even realize it was this thing. Because that's why I'm like, I have issues with self-help books because they make it seem like it's so easy. But anyway, that's besides why I digress. Look, let's jump in. So, I know you as a father, know you as a husband, know you as a son, met your mother several times. Known you as a corporate titan, but I've also known you as a creative, right? So we'll talk about all those. But with that as the backdrop, talk to us about what set you on that path. Let's go back to your youth. What in your youth set you on that path?
Which one? All of them.
Hey, you pick one, whichever one you want to pick.
There's a lot of, it's like you said, there's a lot of little things. And really it's a lot of the decisions my parents made, So you talk about decision making, I was influenced by what they chose to do, what they offered up to me. I mean, one of the biggest things I always remember, two of the biggest things. One thing I'm thankful is that I am an Atlantan. I'm a native Atlantan, but I was not born physically in Atlanta. I was born in North Carolina, but my parents were moving to Atlanta at the time. So I went from hospital to Atlanta, North Carolina hospital to Atlanta. So, but I always say that. So I didn't know much about the city, but there was something about the city growing up that I loved. So at the time, my parents got divorced and it was time for me to go to high school. We were living in Mississippi at the time, me and my mom. And she had an option. She's a teacher. She was a lifelong college professor. She had an option to go teach at Spelman or go teach at North Carolina State. And she asked me, do I want to go to Raleigh or do I want to go back to Atlanta? And I said, I'm gonna go to Atlanta. I mean, it was just, and, it's like I'd always stayed in touch with people. The city, my cousin lived here, so we had family already here. Um, and went to Mays High School, and that was one of the biggest decisions I had. I think that was one of the best decisions for me ever, and I
Mm-hmm.
try to remind her of that. And the reason is because by the time I was conscious of race and social relationships, when you're 5 or 6 is probably when you probably really can comprehend certain things. 7 years old, when they say children can actually comprehend things and string things together into a logical
Right.
thought.
Yeah.
We were living in Hartford, Connecticut. In a fairly rough neighborhood, but the school I went to was mostly white, and then lived there for about 4 or 5 years, and then moved to Amherst, Massachusetts, where the school I went to was mostly white. Then moved to Mississippi, where the school was. So between like 5 years old and how old are you in high school? 13, 14 years old. The only black people I knew about black folks from my family and the excellence that was in my family, but I was not around other kids like me. Unfortunately, the black kids were usually the kids that were causing trouble or in trouble. It was very, the diversity was just not there in the
Right.
places I was. And coming back to Atlanta and going to Mays and being around not just the folks at Mays, but the school system in Atlanta, the city of Atlanta. It's like I look back. I mean, I went to high school with the mayor. Back then I was going to high school with the mayor's kids. People who were titans of industry, people who were civil rights icons. It was like I was surrounded by a lot of people that made me feel like I could accomplish a lot, right?
Mhm.
But that was also something that my parents always instilled in me. So talking about decisions, every decision they made feels like they tried to decide what was going to help expose me to better things, to help me go beyond what they were doing, which they did great, by the way. They're both PhDs, both college professors, so
Mhm.
it's not
Mhm.
like they didn't set all kinds of examples as well. But watching them, or kind of, I guess watching them is probably wrong, reflecting on all those decisions they made when I was growing up influenced how I make decisions. Because to your point, sometimes you don't have a best option. Sometimes you really just have two options. You
Mhm.
just have to make a choice, and later on you'll be like, "Whew, thank God that was the right
Right.
choice," or at
Right.
least it worked out.
Mhm.
And so that was what they had to do. They were college professors. The only way to really get promotions and move up in the college ranks is to go to another school, or you can spend a long time at the same school, but that's harder. So that's why we moved around a lot, and they had to make decisions about moving their child around from city to city. My parents got divorced when I was 10, so there's another decision they're both having to make. My father moved to New York and then to Chicago, so I would only see him, occasionally. So there were decisions they made, whether they liked it or not, or whether I liked it or not. But it feels like things did work out
Right.
pretty well for me. And so, um, I know I strayed off on like you're talking
No, no,
about.
no, no, dude. There's no right or wrong way to answer that question.
But I mean, I think it's so they made those decisions. I got exposed to a lot of good things. So, but essentially, what I think that instilled in me is a willingness to take risk and to not be afraid of picking the choice that seems less ideal, if
Right.
that makes sense,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Choosing to leave a company to go work somewhere else versus stay where it's safe. Choosing to invest heavily in starting my own business and trying to make sure I'm making enough money on a regular basis. But all those things, have worked out very well. Even the business pursuits I've had that failed, or that we had to shut shop and restart later, they were all good decisions, and they all exposed me to things that helped me later on in life. Every job I got in corporate America was the benefit of both previous corporate work and
Mhm.
entrepreneurial work.
Mhm.
Even the work that I did in marketing was probably a result of all the creative pursuits I do in illustration, and trying to uh, take that creativity and use it. I mean, in the corporate environment, I was trying to be PowerPoint king. I was like, I got to be able to do something creative. I got to be able to tell stories. I got to design things well. So always tried to roll those things into my day-to-day work to make them more exciting or more interesting. And so, yeah, I would just say that, decision making wise, it's always just been about trying to have faith in things working out and choosing the thing that drew me more than maybe the other, or maybe the thing that I thought was, I mean, if you're going to make a bad decision, at least do the thing that seems interesting and fun.
Right.
If I'm going to crash and burn, at least have fun
Yeah.
going. It's
Yeah.
like, and so anyway, that's kind of, I don't know
Yeah.
if that answered where
Yeah.
you were
No,
headed, but
like I said,
yeah.
no right or wrong.
Yeah, I appreciate you walking us through that, and I heard you mention somewhat about how you felt when you made that transition to Maze, and
Mhm.
you were exposed to that type of environment. I'm curious to know what it felt like to navigate that previous environment as a child, right? To navigate those spaces of PWIs and how that impacted you versus maybe a shift that you felt moving from that into the predominantly Black spaces.
Yeah, and obviously, I was gonna say in hindsight, it's all hindsight. It's not. I knew exactly what I
Yeah.
was thinking then.
But to that point, like, did you feel it in that moment?
I don't think I noticed.
Yeah.
I don't think I really knew. I knew intellectually because my mom and my dad made sure I knew. They understood. They always made sure, hey, every environment's not like this. Every time you go someplace, the Black people aren't just the people who are in trouble. It's like um, my mom was the and still is the I'm going to write a letter to the principal type of person if she thought something went down that was a little racist and I was relatively oblivious to it. But I knew it intellectually. I really didn't understand it, I think, until I was at Maze and in an environment where it was like, and just back in Atlanta in general, in an environment where I felt like there's all sorts of people, there's all sorts of things going on.
Mhm.
And I think it's gonna sound weird. In those other environments, I was made to feel special,
Mm.
but not in that way of, oh, you're a special kid, you're gonna do great things, but special, you're not like the others kind of
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. Token special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, although it's like, okay, I get it. I'm smart. And there was a couple of other, Black kids that would be in like what do they call it? I forgot what it's called. Not advanced education. It was called
Gifted.
the gifted
Mhm.
programs,
Yeah.
right? Being the gifted programs, there's always one or two of us
Yeah.
amongst
There were
20 or
one or
30
two
of
of
them.
us.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
um, and when I went to Maze, it was like it was a different kind of special. It wasn't that special of you're different than everybody else. It's just special because you can just do it because if you want to do it, you can do it kind of thing. And it took some pressure off because there was this pressure I felt like of
Mhm.
representing the Black folk to everybody. And that actually did carry forth to me in corporate America. It's like I always felt like, oh man, I got to carry the banner for the Black folk, even though I may not want to, or even though I may not, it's like, and so for that brief window, well, what was it? Brief window where I was just around Black folk all the time of all different types. It felt like there wasn't this pressure anymore to be the special one or to show that you're special. There was still the competition, still the desire to
Right.
achieve, but it was more about my own personal achievement. Okay, now I can focus on what do I want to accomplish versus now I got to accomplish for the Black folk.
It's funny how we not even have instruct him to talk emotionally. He just bringing it all out there. Like this is how I felt.
Yeah, I get emotional, man.
Yeah.
Right.
You're in the right
But
place.
it was, but again, I mean, I'm sure if I like really dove deep with a therapist, I dig up all kinds of things. But in the midst of it, I just took it as normal. I knew I was probably in a place that was different, but at the same time, I didn't know any other place. It's just that's what I knew,
Sure.
and all I really could understand was, and it's interesting because if we had moved to Raleigh from Montecito, North Carolina State, I would have gone to because they have a technical management program high school out there, but it's mostly white.
Yeah.
Maze is mostly Black.
Mhm.
So what's interesting about it was it's just there was a decision around the school, but it was really more about the city and the culture. And I knew, and my mom wanted to come back here. I mean, quite frankly, Spelman wasn't paying what North Carolina State was going to
Right.
pay.
Right.
So, but she was willing to take to take that on, and especially for me. And so, it is one of those things where I didn't feel it, but then after, looking back on it, I was like, geez, how dare they, treat me like that? But I mean, and what's sad is I think there's still just a lot of areas in this country that are like that, where there's a few sprinklings of people of color, whether they're Black or whether they're from another country coming in, the people of color, or even just different than the others around them, and probably getting treated in a way that either makes them feel like they're supposed to be either special, not like the other folks like them, or being put down as being like others. But
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Being
it's this
othered.
separation.
Othered. Being
Yeah.
othered. Which
Yeah,
is,
there you go. That's
yes,
it. Being
that's,
othered.
we've
Very
had,
much.
that's come up on a couple of other podcasts too. It's like
Yeah.
that the idea of being othered. So speaking of that, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
What does that feel like to be like, I'm the othered, now I'm one of many? Like how do you make that transition? Is it unsettling? I know you said it kind of was it released the burden, if you will, a little bit, but like, is it like, okay, I'm comfortable, or it took you a little bit to adjust to not being the unique one?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that was not an adjustment at all. The adjustment was that what I knew about Black culture probably came from television and
Wow.
movies, outside of what was, let's say, the culture in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which is the Black culture in Hattiesburg, rich culture, sure, but it's a poor town, it's a poor
Yeah.
city. Aside from the
Yeah.
University of Southern Mississippi, it's a poor town, it's a poor Southern Mississippi town.
Right.
Um, and so I think there was just, but I mean, even some of like trends, how you dress, slang, all those things were just like foreign to me. And so people would talk to me, and I would take me a while to just get adjusted. And it still felt a little bit, huh?
Shouty. Somebody call you, say shouty.
No, that was no. It was. I'm trying to remember what it was. I can't even remember what it was. It was something that somebody was saying to me. It was also just the accent. It had been so long since I've been in Atlanta. Getting used to the accent again was like, okay, all right. It's just the way some people talk. But it was just more of, I mean, from dancing. So I played football in Mississippi. I knew I didn't want to play sports anymore. I got tired of football. I played soccer in high school, but I was done with football. My dad had played football. He didn't want me to play football, just from the injuries and the risks that go with it. I was like, oh, but I'm going to a Black high school. I can get in a marching band. I just loved marching bands. I'd seen FAMU, I'd seen Southern, down in New Orleans, all this stuff, right? So I was like, bet, I'm in the marching band. Man, the rhythm took a while. Dancing and playing at the same time. Dancing and marching. I mean, playing and marching at the same time. And I've been playing instrument for years, but it was like all of a sudden this extra coordination.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, again, it was all types of people that made. So there was others who couldn't dance either. It wasn't like everybody.
Yeah,
But
right,
sometimes it
yeah.
felt like that. Sometimes
Yeah.
like, can everybody in Black people in this high school dance with me?
Yeah.
So it was little cultural things like that were more the adjustment. But there wasn't this need to stand out anymore. Or let me put it this way. There wasn't this. Yeah, no, it wasn't a need to feel like I represented a certain type of person.
Got it.
It was really more about now I got to figure out who I am and what I'm into. And now there's all these opportunities. And, it's like, even with the cliques and things that happened in high school, I still felt like, I knew a lot of different people, a lot of different types. I knew the jocks, I knew the band folks, I knew the nerds, and so you were able to have these relationships and these friends with all different types of people with interesting backgrounds and personalities that I just didn't experience anywhere else.
This is
Like,
interesting.
them looking like me. Black goths walking through the hall. I never seen Black folk dress up in
Say
goth.
that again, because I don't know if people caught that.
Black goths. I never seen Black folk dress up in goth gear until I got to Atlanta. It was at Maze. And it threw me for a second. I was like, what's going on? And it's like, and you start to realize, it's like, when you can be in an environment in which you feel like, okay, I don't have to represent a whole, set of people or a whole culture. I can now be myself within a culture or just whatever I want. It just changed a lot. It really, I think that experience really made me feel like, it sounds cliche, but I could do anything. I could be anything. I could explore all kinds of things. So that sort of experience led me to be able to make decisions about, okay, I'm going to do something creative here. I'm going to do something corporate here. Because it didn't feel like I was doing something weird or offbeat or something that we weren't supposed to do. Oh, Black people don't do that. You know what? I know a lot of people, Black people do it. Maybe not everybody, or maybe it's not as popular, but Black people do all kinds of things.
You discovered you weren't a monolith.
Exactly.
This part of the conversation has taken me to a place for the first time. And that place is, I thought about when I had been going to PWIs like my entire grade school year until my sophomore year of high school, where I started at one school and then switched for the first time to an all-Black high school. And how, in hindsight, I felt othered in that high school. And I believe it's because I had been moving in a certain way through school, right, the whole time. Like, there was a school persona that I had developed. And that school persona was crafted in those PWIs. So then when I flipped and went to a predominantly Black school, I was kind of viewed as like, oh, like, this is the brainiac kid or any of these things. And the reality is that I wasn't like super smarter than other students that went there.
I presented differently,
Mhm.
so I was perceived differently.
Mm.
And how uncomfortable that shit was when I was a kid. And how weirdly it almost felt like I didn't fit in here.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, it could. I mean, I would say it's the nature of the school play. I mean, I would say that Mays High School, it was known at the time I was there. It was known as the school with the rich black folk, the sedity bougie black folk
Yeah.
went to Mays. But it wasn't just that. I mean, it was all types. I mean,
Right.
we had some of the greatest musicians come out of Mays High School in the '90s, in the late '80s and '90s, and so. It felt that way initially a little bit when I looked at the popular kids and maybe the bigger cliques.
Okay,
Yeah.
there it is.
But I quickly settled into people who, when I got into band practice, I mean, we have some mutual friends. I mean, it was the same folks that I hang out today with.
Yeah.
And it clicked instantly with them.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate, I think, to find my tribe, so to speak, within that world so that I didn't necessarily, I probably felt other than that. I don't belong with that clique.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I'm other than that. I don't belong at this school, or I don't belong in this community, or I don't belong at this place. It just means that they're different than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that is interesting you say that. I worried about that. I think I did feel that a little bit, but it quickly went away as soon as I settled into certain groups that we had a common interest in.
It took me a minute, and I don't know if I fully released it before I left that school, because I was only there a year.
Okay.
And I was a really sensitive kid. Like Kyle knows this, right? Like I was a really sensitive kid, and the othering, both visible, palpable, and also the story I was telling myself, made me hesitant to really integrate into it. And then by the time I started kind of finding my way in it, I was uprooted again and back in a PWI. Yeah.
That's
tough. Yeah.
that is tough.
Yeah.
You didn't even get to really settle in
Right.
to being around folk.
Right.
And
And-
that you graduated from out of a PWI high school?
I did, from Southridge.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right, that's
but to be fair, Southridge is extremely diverse. Like Miami Southridge was an extremely diverse high school
By the
down
way,
there.
we
So
went to
it's-
University of Miami together. So I know.
we were talking about
Okay,
that.
Got it.
So it wasn't. It didn't index as much as a PWI, but when I came back to that school, which is the school that I started at my sophomore year before I transferred to the predominantly black school, I came back from Cali angry as shit. And I came back disenchanted with the government, as we were talking about. So at that point, like I was in the awakening, and it was like all black everything.
Mhm.
Like my mindset was recalibrated to be blacker. So I was welcoming everything. Let's go. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that's interesting. Did you ever land anywhere where you like, okay, I don't feel othered anymore?
I never, after that experience, I never felt othered with our people, like within our culture. But
I did. But I'm sorry, keep going.
yeah, but like at that point, like I wasn't feeling othered within our culture, but I certainly felt othered in other spaces, just as a black man. Because as I said, I went to Florida State, and just being in corporate by virtue of that, like you're going to have those experiences for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I didn't realize we had that similar experience in common about the band.
Oh, yeah.
Because for me, I went to Northern Middle in Miami, and that's where I started playing my instrument, right? But that was, at that time, Northern Middle, I don't know if it is or isn't anymore, it was a magnet school for performing arts.
Oh, okay.
So the band program there was predominantly white folks, right? And so I'm learning to play trombone, and I'm learning to play it in that way. And it was you sit, and they didn't have the marching band, right? Well, you didn't have the marching band in middle school, right? And then lo and behold, my parents were like, "Well, do you want to go to Northern for high school? Or do you want to go Miami Carroll City for for high school?" Yeah. And I picked Miami Carroll City. I was just like, I'm tired of this. Like, I want to. So I go over there, and it's similar. Like, wait, I gotta dance. Wait, hold on. I had right foot, left foot. I'm just like this.
So we're gonna make an M. We're gonna do what?
are we doing right
Why
now?
we play this song?
Wait, we got to mark. Okay, now I got to dance and play at the same time.
Yeah.
It was crazy, but because of my Caribbean background, and me being lighter skin and having the greater hair that I had, I was othered all day, son. Like with my people.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. Like that, I had to learn to develop the jabbing. You know, like you come for me.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, because trust. Like people will tell you, and my wife would be like, be careful.
Yeah.
But like, and you and I've had this conversation. But what I had to develop was this, and it's funny because we were just talking to somebody else, the whole Bahamian thing, right? And how we get feedback. Well, so what I had to learn to do was you could call me, they called me all kinds of stuff, right? Because I was different. And, but there was a point. And once you reach that point, you were in trouble.
Did they know the point, or you just
No.
it was just one of those things where when you'll know when you hit it?
Yeah. Well, and especially in my freshman year, I kind of just took a lot.
Oh yeah.
Then my sophomore year, you kept coming, and it would take a while. It would take weeks for you to get there. But when you got there, I shut your ass up. Like big time. Like I would embarrass the fuck out of people. And that was but I reflect back and I know it was a defense mechanism.
Right.
And I feel bad about some of the stuff that I said, but they deserved the shit. Like I'll never forget. I'll just say it and then we can move on. It was a really, really, really dark skin. And you got to Miami, you saw some of the folks that I'm talking about, right? So really dark skinned people. But there's this one heavyset guy that would just not leave me alone. He just wouldn't. He wouldn't leave me alone. Like just kept coming. And I was just like, man, just stop. I'd be like, man, just stop. And I'll never forget the day we're out in practice. We're on the field learning how to build an M or whatever it is, because we did MCC. And he kept coming. I was like, shut your ass. You're a burple ass motherfucker up because they can't even see your ass in the daytime. You shut the fuck up. Like, and the whole band went silent. It's just like, but you kept coming for me, son. Like, I don't
You
know.
see, that's good. You had I don't have comebacks. Like I could. That was my thing. Is I could never come back with anybody. So
he channeled the spirit of Al.
He pulled it in from somewhere because I was like,
I had to. I mean, they were all. I mean, people had yellow teeth. They would just not come for me. I'm like, oh, you glow in the dark when you turn the lights off. You just need to stop talking to me. Like, so anyway. Sorry, I digress.
No,
but anyway, this concept of being othered.
Yeah.
What I want to fast forward to is being in corporate.
Yeah.
And being creative. Like, so what's that like? Like, I mean, and of course we've talked about this, right? But I'm just curious for the audience, like what does that feel like? Did you feel othered in terms of like how your approach to corporate America versus the non-creative people in corporate America?
Yeah, it's interesting. Because I try to remember if I have revisionist history, you remember what you want to remember. I don't think I felt it as much because I was pretty fortunate to have managers, both black and white, and mentors who at least helped me feel like I wasn't being othered because
Until
of the
you
way
wore
they
those tight
managed me.
pants that time. But I'm sorry, keep going. I'm sorry, keep going. I digress.
I mean, it was one of those things that I don't think I really recognized how much of a blessing it was to the people I worked for and with until it's like, I think until after I left CMG, after like I left working with you for the second time.
Really?
And ended up with really crappy managers because my first job out of college, it was a bit of a favor. I had terrible grades, but I interviewed well. Somebody wanted to take a chance on me. The manager was really nice, white dude at a bank. And I got put on a project team with a black guy who was a network engineer. We were rolling out a whole network, and I was an engineering major. And so I was like, okay, so I'm working for this black guy who also at the time, I mean, this is 1994, he had his own business on the side doing network engineering for small businesses. So like my first job out, I got this sense of, okay, don't just work for one person, have your own thing on the side. And so that right there kind of sparked a little bit of like, okay, maybe I can do something entrepreneurial. I didn't think you could do that. That bank got bought. The project got shut down. I left. I went to work for a startup. And even though I had a really hard ass boss, he was just kind of a mean guy in general, just always irritable. I had tons of responsibility. I built all the PCs for this startup, I handled all the telecom, and I just had a ton of responsibility. And um, they shut down. I got laid off. But I started doing a business, and that was when I got into web design, partnered up with Elliot to start a
Mhm,
business.
mhm.
And at that point, to do web design, I had to be creative. Like the first two jobs I had, I was like, I'm Mr. Corporate, I'm doing engineering, I'm doing everything buttoned up. But to do web design, I had to go back and dig into my creativity bag. I'd go back to how I did, except instead of doing hand illustrations, designing party flyers in college, now I got to like do some
I
graphic
remember those
design.
Kappa flyers.
Yeah, man. And so I taught myself Photoshop, and I taught myself HTML, and it was fun, and I loved it. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm doing this creative work, and I'm about to go try to tell people to pay me to do it for them and to build it for them and create it. And we got some business. It was still mid to late 90s, so internet wasn't popping off like that yet.
Right.
But we had UPS as clients and SunTrust, and so at that moment, I think those first 3 or 4 years of working both for decent managers and working for myself and building something, modest but successful, just kind of gave me a confidence of okay, I can do things that I pursue. And so then when I shut down a business and went back into corporate at IBM, yet again, good mentors, good bosses,
Mhm.
always giving me responsibility, always making me feel like I can and giving me the responsibility of things that are important, right? Like not to me, I feel like if I'm othered, it means they're giving me like some token shit.
Mm,
Maybe it's important, but it's not really the important stuff.
mhm.
No,
Right.
I was getting like, no, we need to kind of, we need to move this from an on-prem software system to a hosted system. This is the early days of what is now SaaS and software as a service.
Mhm.
I was doing site visits with the engineering team. I was working with the product team. I was working on marketing materials. The success of the product was dependent on a lot of what I was doing as the only product manager in that group. And so I didn't feel othered because I was like, no, I'm an important part of this operation. And so it wasn't until I got the Cox and worked with you for a while. Again, great manager, great colleagues who always made sure that I was working on something important, knew what was important. And then I left and I went to that agency, I will not name, up in Virginia. And they were just a mess. And they didn't really care. They weren't, they were kind of like fly by the seat sales guys selling web design. The CEO had a great personality. So people just bought because they loved him. And so there were no standards, there was no strategy. You didn't, they just say, go out and sell it. So I didn't feel like I was really getting any direction or guidance. And so I started to feel like an outsider
Mm.
because I felt like, well, and I didn't know what other people were getting. I didn't know if other directors were getting the same guidance or the mentoring, but I didn't know. I just felt left out because I didn't have bosses that were guiding me. I didn't have peers to talk to feel my way through. And so it wasn't anything other than I just felt like I was just there as just kind of to be there. And um, but in general, in corporate, it's been rare. The othering has been rare because I feel like I've always and I listen. I lean on relationships. Sometimes it feels like a little too much. But
Mhm.
I mean, I'm serious. It's like, I need to, okay, what's this place like? And it's like, I learned from you. It's like, I learned earlier on, I need to know how this business works.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to know what my role is in the success of
Mhm.
this business and in this environment, because otherwise I run the risk of being carved out or pushed over here.
Yeah.
And you can even still end up that way, even when you know how
Yes,
Yeah.
stuff
yes,
works.
yes, you can. Yes, you can.
But that's been a blessing. It's been lucky. It has been lucky. I would say that hasn't been a concern. But I think it's also I've had a change of attitude now, and that now that I've had that comfort, I feel like I was blessed with that comfort early on that I can do what I want to do. Just because you're black, there's lots of black people doing all kinds of things you don't really need to worry about. You need to worry about it. You need to pay attention to racism, but you don't need to worry about, at that point, my confidence was solidified in what I could do and what I
Sure.
could be. And so it really just became an exercise of trying to find those places that respected my confidence. Not everybody's going to believe in me like I believe in me, but I just got to go find those places that they do. And I've been fortunate for the most part to end up there. So,
You said something interesting as you were spelling that out that kept resonating in my brain. You said that I rely on relationships, maybe sometimes too much. What's
mm.
that mean to you?
If I don't have a connection to something, I'm really not that interested in it. And from the standpoint of if it's a project, if it's a company to work for, if it's media to consume, a good song, it's just one of those things where the people that I know who've been in and out of my life, and you don't have to be in my life for a long time, but um, there's such a I don't know. I think that there's context to when you know people, there's context to what they bring you to share with you, or in their guidance to you that is, for me, a little less. I mean, it's personal. It is. There's a person. I mean, so we're talking about emotions, right? It's like I realized a long time ago, as much as I like data and facts, and so I can't live my life based on those things. I oftentimes go against the data. My wife will tell you that, like, you're not making the right judgment. um, but it's because, for me, life is such an emotional journey. I either really enjoy things, or if I don't enjoy them, then I don't want to have shit to do with them. I can drop a project like that, it's a Gemini in me or whatever you want to call it. But, and so I've learned that the things that actually interest me the most are usually brought to me by people that I know, and not some stranger, not something I stumbled across. Very rarely do I stumble across something that really, it's usually somebody. I mean, and these days it's great. I mean, it probably is just coincidence. I mean, people send reels all the time, art ideas for projects. They're like, I thought of you when you were doing this project. Company ideas. I mean, my last 2 companies I worked at, where people came to me and said, hey, they're hiring for XYZ.
Yeah.
And you're interested? And I'm like, sure. I mean, without really answering, like, well, what do y'all do?
Right.
It was like, I mean, I think when I came to work at CMG with you, I was still like, now, what is it that I'm going to be doing? I get it, but I don't get it. It took me a while, but it was because he trusted me. I trusted what he was saying, and he was right. It was one of the best job choices I made. Yeah.
So, we've been talking about relationships. We've been talking about being othered. Love to hear your experiences with that in life, both personal and professional. You can connect with us on our social Instagram at Beauty and the Beast 2025. So we were just talking about relationships. We were talking about being othered, and we kind of want to talk about both of those. And we want to really sit in those. Let's go on the relationship aspect. And I think you wanted to follow up on some things.
Yeah, because I feel like we may have stumbled upon this, and you were unpacking how you lean on relationships and how much their recommendations and the opportunities they bring to you, how much you value them. But you couple that with, I maybe lean too much. And I'm curious about that leaning too much part,
Right.
because that seems to have some negative connotation to it.
Yeah. It's probably, so I think of it in 2 ways. I think leaning too much, I think of it 2 ways. Sometimes I think of it as like, am I bothering people, asking them for too much or asking them advice too much? But it's not so much that does come up every once in a while. It's more of what I was mentioning, where I almost rely on it solely without actually exploring things on my own. And it's like, so, I mean, one of the great examples is networking. Like, I know the power of networking. I know how to network. I've done it for so many years. I run my own business now. It is hard to get me out there to network.
Yeah.
It's just hard because it requires reaching out and being in environments and reaching out to people you don't know, you don't fully understand. If I do go somewhere, it's like, it's got to be, oh, my boy is putting this event on. So I at least know him. I at least know. But if somebody calls me or hits me up or texts me and say, hey, I got this idea for you, I'm like, yeah, what is it? Just say, and it's like, and I'll even jump in without a whole lot of details, because it's just this feeling of, this person's not going to bring me garbage. And even if they brought me something I didn't like, that's fine. There are going to be things I don't like, and we both learn from that. Yeah. But I do think, and I know, and this kind of actually touches on creativity as well, because most of my career, most of my networking was spent in corporate environments with IT professionals, even marketing. Like, marketing is a more recent part of my career. I don't even have a huge network of people in marketing because I did so many years in IT and technology. And when I got laid off and went doing photography full time, and then now I've added consulting into the mix. I need to get out there and tell people what I do.
You do?
and I don't. I mean, it's just it is a challenge for me to explore environments solo by myself, where I don't feel like there's some connection, some end, some tie that I can feel comfortable with that makes me settle in. It's just a challenge for me, and it's never an issue. Like literally, if I go do it, it's never an issue. I may not enjoy the event, but it's not like I died. It's not like I got a bad rep. It's not like, I'm not getting scored on how well I'm networking.
Mhm.
And so again, I think I lean on the people I knew and the connections I've made to kind of help drive what I'm interested in and what I pursue and where I go and what I do. And most of the time it works, but I think there are a lot of opportunities in which I should just kind of venture off somewhere. And my mom always says, she thinks, so we moved around a lot as a kid, as I mentioned. And I have been very adamant about not leaving Atlanta anytime soon. My wife has wanted to move for a long time. But our kids have been raised here. I want them to at least finish high school here. And then when they finish high school, if they want to move out of the city, they can. Yeah. And I just always assumed I just want to make sure they stay with mom. I said, no, it's probably because you moved around a lot. You probably really want to set down some roots because my hometown, my family is all in North Carolina. So I grew up always having to travel home. Right. It was just me and my dad and my mom. And then for a while, it was just me and my mom. And so I think that I should, because I moved around a lot, be comfortable going out in new spaces. But I kind of like knowing what I know. Like, bring me something new, but at least I know, you bring me something new. Okay, I know Kyle in this new thing I'm about to go do, and I can kind of like, and also it's like that. It feels like a safety net. I could pull Kyle.
That's the word that was coming up for me was safety.
Yeah. What did you just bring me into? If there's something going down.
What he's referring to is I had him do the behind the scenes photography on the movie that we just did.
Okay.
And he had never done that before. And we were hook or crook on this thing, trying to make this budget go far. And I was just like, well, I got this. He's a photographer. He's trying to get his name out there. Can you do this for free? And he was like, yes. I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. So he came in and the two of us were like in the corner. I was like, you need to go.
Yeah, my nerves. I was so worried I was going to mess up the movie. I was going to cost some money because I was in a shot. I mean, all kinds of things, right? Yeah. But because he was there, and because I could lean on him, even though I didn't know anybody else on that. I don't think there was anybody else I knew except for Vic.
Well, you'd met Vic and Quigley.
And Quigley. But I mean,
only
Vic
once.
was busy.
Vic was busy. He's directing the movie.
Yeah, so but because it was him, I would have done it. If somebody else had come and said, hey, you should consider, and then I heard people say, this is one of the things people would say, that as I network, you should consider doing behind the scenes photography on movie sets, especially in Atlanta. I was like, okay, maybe. Yeah. I never pursued it, but then he calls me on the mentions, and I'm like, all right, bet, let's do it. And I had fun, and it was a great experience. I had fun. I probably won't ever do it again because that's just exhausting. The set life is not the life for me. But again, it gave me some experience. I have some knowledge of what that's like now. I've been diving into doing my own filmmaking now, so being on a set and watching something that's a bigger production, even though I know it's still relative to other productions was small, it was, it had all the pro stuff I would never have, from folks working lighting to focus pull, all this stuff. So that experience is great, and it's feeding into what I'm doing next. Yeah. And so, kind of circling all the way back to when you talk about decision making. The decision was to try something because somebody that I have a relationship with that I trust came to me with the idea.
Right.
And I said, sure. And it paid off.
Yeah, the idea and the confidence in you,
and the confidence in me, and that was not something I had done before. It wasn't going to make me any money off the top. I mean, down the line one day, but it was worth doing. And so I wait for those things. Sure, it's kind of So going back to leaning on too much. So now it's like I rely almost too much on those things to come to me to create opportunities that I pursue. That are outside of just my own personal artistic pursuits, that things I just want to create. But those have always been there and they'll always be there. But if I'm going to do a business pursuit or some project or something like that, and it's new and I've never done it, somebody usually has to come to me with it.
Gotcha. So I wanted to go back to the other, because what we said off camera was, I think you were thinking when I asked the original question, othered, about the black and the white. Yeah. And so let me give you the context on why I'm asking this question, right? It is taking me a long time to understand that I am a creative being. Right. I didn't know that about myself. And I actually fought against it, to be honest with you. And so I now come across this guy in Zuri, Standback, who I've hired twice and to do 2 different roles. And it was ironic about that, right? Is I witnessed you struggle. I witnessed you struggle with grasping your creativity, right? And I remember me giving gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'll stop there and I'll let you finish the story. But in context of how did it feel to be this creative person in IT, which is not a whole lot of creativity, but started off with telling the rest of the story that I just started.
Telling the rest of the book, you want to start with the book?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so that is actually so, because you gave that when I came to CMG, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the second time I went to work for Kyle. But the first time I went to work for Kyle at Cox Enterprises, yes, it was an IT job. But and I don't know if you thought of it this way, but it was for the internal portal, for the website. It was for all of the interactive properties that Cox had, and even looking at rolling out, SharePoint for social network stuff. So there was a user experience part to that, which is, you and I were talking earlier. I consider myself really, I love the user experience, whether it's digital, online primarily, but all types of experiences. And so that was a learning exercise in that I had to work with creative folks and getting that site redesigned, getting things built out in an IT department, which was a challenge. But I felt like, okay, I can talk to these folks because I have creative. I've done website design before. That one, I don't necessarily know if I felt and Kyle, that was an interesting one. That one, I felt like I was trying to carry the flag for creatives and for designers because I worked with the marketing department. I worked with the corporate communications department. They were like my internal clients for IT. And I don't know if I necessarily felt, I don't know if I felt othered there because I felt like I was a trusted resource for the creative folks and for the IT folks to translate stuff for folks. So again, talking back, did I ever feel othered? Well, not necessarily that environment because I felt like I was there playing an important role to get some things done. But at the same time, I wasn't doing the creative work. I was kind of just deferring and guiding and stuff. And I like a little more hands-on and getting my hands dirty. And so when I went to work for Kyle again at another Cox at CMG, and we had a nice small team. Well, we didn't have a small team. He had a nice small team of direct reports. We had a lot of people.
Yes.
And he got us all books. It was our first retreat. Was it our first retreat or very first retreat as a team? I think.
I don't
or
remember.
it was the end of the year, first year. I mean, I started like right at the start of fourth quarter. He gave us all books. It's like holiday. I think it was holiday gifts or something. It was around a retreat. And he gave me this one about this guy who worked at Hallmark. I think it was Hallmark.
Yep.
And he was a designer and a writer. He wrote greeting cards. And it really just is this humorous set of vignettes and stories about how he navigated, I think it's called Navigating the Big Hairy Ball.
Yep.
And how he navigated a corporate environment, and when you think about, well, it's greeting cards. That's their creativity seems to be what they sell, even in an environment like that. You got, people are trying to be efficient and cost savings, and how he navigated all of those decisions and worked with people to kind of set up his own sort of world within this corporate environment that was very creative and very respected. And it was interesting. I was like, he gave us all different books. So he didn't give everybody that book. He gave me that book because he was really pointing out, hey, you could be creative in a corporate space. Right. And so it really was at that point, but again, being at places where I had people who trusted me or great managers, peers who kind of said, go do this. And I'm like, bet, all right, I'll go do that. And it worked. And then from then it was always just trying to find ways to weave in creativity. It was, again, PowerPoints. It was trying to help design some of our collateral because, we had a design team, but they were always occupied with client work. And so, seeing if I can get hands-on with that, trying to get creative with how I do presentations at sales conferences, really trying to amp up the storytelling and at IBM, and it was a transition for me because at IBM, the way to do a presentation was to fill the slide with words and read every single word and every bullet line while everybody sat around the table and nodded, and everybody had a printed copy of the presentation to take notes. And by the time I left CMG, which would have been about 15 years later, good Lord, I would do presentations on stage with a picture and me just talking, and trying to get them to pay attention to the story. And it was well received, and I would get good feedback. And so all of that thing kind of continued to culminate where I would just like try to fit creativity more and more into what I did. And so I think, Kyle, yes, I could have felt othered, but I didn't feel othered
Mm,
because you were there.
mm,
You gave that guidance, and I trusted that guidance, and that guidance worked out. And so, and I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that's like I just need one good friend and I'm good, or what what that means. But it is a situation in which, and maybe some of that also comes from having to move in and out of a lot of environments. I had never like
That's where I
when I
went.
when I meet
Yeah.
people and say I'm still friends with my friend from elementary school. I don't remember anybody. I was in Hartford, Connecticut at God knows what elementary school. I was at three different elementary schools in Hartford, Connecticut. I was at two different schools in Amherst, Massachusetts, two different schools in Amherst, Mississippi, one school in Atlanta, and then
Mhm.
another school for college.
Yeah.
I mean, I always moved in and out of new environments. And so, I had to, I guess maybe that was, having that trusted friend, that one person I know to help me navigate that is probably all I need. But at the same time, I almost have to have it or else I don't want to even dive in. So I don't know. I don't know if othering is what I felt as much as, again, I felt othered when I was in a place where I didn't have somebody I trusted.
Sure.
When I went to SiteWorks, I didn't have anybody I trusted. I had nobody that worked there that I trusted. I had nobody that I had a previous connection with. I had nobody that knew anybody, nothing. And it was a god awful experience.
The idea of tethered versus untethered
mhm.
Mhm.
came up for me.
Yeah.
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 So you did something a few years ago that really touched me, and it actually helped inspire this podcast.
Oh, okay.
And it was I don't know what you would coin it as, but it was the giving flowers.
Oh, yeah. The When You See Them project.
Yeah. So talk about that project,
yeah.
and but more importantly, what led you to do that project? So you might want to talk about the project before you talk about what led you there.
So, all right. So I had to tell the story. So, I consider myself having been an artist. Well, now I consider myself my whole life, but I seriously dove into creating art for commercial purposes in the early 2000s. I started painting. I always wanted to be a painter, and I went through that for several years. And that's some of the stuff Kyle saw as I joined Cox Enterprises. I was painting at the same time. I had a gallery. I did all that stuff, and I really decided to dedicate a lot more time and energy to it by building out a studio in my house right when the pandemic hit. And the pandemic hit, and I was really getting to the edge where I was going to be showing my work and meeting people and talking to them about my work. And now we were all locked down.
Yeah.
And so I decided I want to record YouTube videos talking about my art so I can still get out there and people can reach me. So let me go get a camera, get a really damn good camera. And my grandfather's a photographer. I've dealt with cameras before, but it was always just casual. Got a camera, said I need to learn the camera, went around shooting, fell in love with the camera, never painted again.
Yeah.
So learned the camera for a while, really got into it. And then for a while it was just street photography. And I was like, I want to get into portraits. My grandfather did portraits. I like doing portraits of people, but I want some meaning behind the portraits I do. I did do a couple of just, hey, somebody's having a birthday types of things, but I want to do a project. I want to do a photography project.
Not Olin Mills work.
Yeah, exactly. And also something conceptual with a story, that sort of thing. Right. And so I turned 50 in 2021. And I don't know how I got the idea. I'm sure I saw it somewhere, but I wanted to do my own photo shoot of myself with flowers. I wanted to give myself my flowers for my 50th birthday. And we had a former coworker at CMG who was a florist, started a very high-end florist, and I talked to her and I said, you want to do this project together? I want you to do like this floral setup in my studio, and I'm gonna take pictures. And we did it. And that was my 50th birthday photo shoot. That was the original idea.
Yeah.
Loved it. And I was like, I want to do more of these. I want to do some of these to honor some Black men I know.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking of making a list and I wanted to do it. Essentially, I couched it as Gen X men in their middle ages, so people between 45 and 55 was roughly, but it was really the men I know. So Kyle was one, our friend Elliot was another. And I tried to get a lot more. And the idea was come to the studio. We did a custom floral installation, and we just spent some time talking, taking pictures, having drinks, what have you, and just spent time catching up. You know, and some of the guys I see more often. I saw Kyle more often than I saw other folks like Kevin came. I hadn't seen Kevin in like 3 years when we did that one.
Yeah.
And so it was a way to catch up with old friends. It was a way to honor them. And I turned 3 of the people. Well, it was only 3 that ended up doing it. You, Kevin, and I took the prints and I did some illustration, and I created these essentially art pieces that were part illustration, part photograph that I showed at a show called Articulate, ATL, in 2022. But that was my project. It was the whole goal is to honor Black Gen X men.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot behind it because I feel like as our generation, and you see a lot of articles written about it now, which is, you know, reaffirming I'm not crazy, or maybe I'm crazy and they are too. But, you know, our generation experienced so much change in such a short period of time. We went from 8-track tapes to streaming music in a 50-year cycle. Yeah. Like, we went through so much technological and cultural change and technology impacting culture that a lot of other generations have not seen.
Right.
And also the social impact of things. We grew up where you started to really, I mean, like, you know, certainly the 60s or the 50s and 60s had lots of, you know, the violence against Black folk on television. But, you know, especially thinking, you know, Rodney King was kind of that inflection point where all of a sudden we're just seeing the beating of Black folks by cops in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so we saw media change. We saw culture change. And right when we started to become more and more relevant, you know, in our mid-30s or 40s, then the environment changed again. And that, you know, now we're getting laid off en masse, and we're middle managers. We're not hireable because we're too old for the jobs that maybe younger folks are willing to do, or the AI is doing, or they just changed their minds. Now all of a sudden Zuckerberg wants to get rid of middle management. You know, so there's so many changes that we've gone through. And I also think that anytime you can honor a Black man who's made it to 50 years old, period, no matter what,
it was a dope experience, man. Yeah. There was so much personality that everyone was able to bring to.
Yeah. All I said was just wear black. That's all I asked.
Yeah.
Because the flowers were very colorful, so I didn't want any color outfits. I said just wear black. And Lauren, the florist, she would do a different setup every time. And I mean, you know, a lot of florals are dependent on the time of year we do them, but also we would talk about colors they liked, and and he brought his sneaker collection and said, we take a bunch of different pictures with different sneakers on. You know, it was nice. And I wanted to do it. I had a long list. Let me tell you, the florist is expensive. And I thought about trying to do it with plastic, but there was something about the real flowers being there.
Yes,
and for me, like, there's the part that y'all don't see because there's the setting up, there's the planning.
You're right.
With Lauren.
I can imagine.
Thinking through it. There's she shows up 3 hours early because she's bringing a massive amount of flowers. Like, I have behind the scenes pictures. I'm setting up a big backdrop. She's setting flowers on the floor, on the ground. We're setting it all up because the feeling I want is for them to be in a field of flowers, in a bed of flowers. It's the flowers are really a major part of it. And so it's a lot of setup. And then after everybody leaves and there's breaking it all down and taking the flower. But I mean, there's something about the process that's very cathartic for me. It's very much about going through those steps. And I think I've always just been a person that's like, how does stuff work? Like, I'm interested in how the end product comes to being. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't love the end product, but at that point, the end product is for the world, and I'm on to the next thing that I'm processing. So that was and I want to do more of that. But it was my one way of trying. I'm not a I was gonna say I'm not a mushy guy. I'm not a very outwardly expressive guy.
Dude, I want to hear you. You've been interweaving emotion throughout the entire conversation. I haven't even had to like dig on emotion. You just talking about it.
Well, but I mean, what you get me talking, maybe. But But I'm not gonna pick up the phone and say, Kyle, man, let me just tell you I love you, man.
Yeah,
and
I should.
But
I should, but
right?
I don't.
But in this way, in this very specific and unique way, you did. And I'm curious to know, centering you in the conversation for a minute, how did that make you feel?
That was dope. Because here's the thing about that experience, is he set a parameter, right? He was like, we're Black, but aside from that, you do whatever it is that you want to do. And I was just like, oh, this is a dope opportunity for me to embed my sneakers in this.
Yeah.
And it was just like the most, one, I had never been a part of a photo shoot before.
Right.
That was the first thing. Yeah. The second thing, it was like, it allowed me to express myself differently than I had ever expressed myself before. Now, having said that, I was stiff as I don't know what. And he was like, he had to like really direct me to, be in the right places, and because he was like, pretend like you're walking, and I'm like robot, like this how you want me to be, like. But it felt great, man. I mean, it was a wonderful experience. And I can't say enough about how it made me feel, such that I've searched for ways in my life to give back as well. And so I was just like, I don't know how I do that. No, what do I do? Like, and also like, what's my passion? Where does it lie? And blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, you and I talk, and it's like podcast.
Yeah.
And so we talk about a podcast, and we're like, well, what is the podcast about? Why is the podcast? Because remember you wouldn't know this, but when we start talking about the podcast, it was like, we're just going to have a conversation. It was just two of us, right? We're just going to talk about different things in life. And, because he and I met at Cox, and it was a mentor-mentee relationship that evolved to a mentor-mentor, and now we're just friends. And now we're co-hosts on the podcast, right? And so as we're talking about this whole podcast, it's just like, we'll just have conversations, because that's the richness is our conversation.
Right.
And then we talk. And we talk some more, and we talk some more. And we're like, you know what? We need to bring people into this conversation. And then, you know what? We need to find a way to bring love into the conversation, but to also to express that love outwardly, not only to the guests, but to the audiences. But that's, I know I kind of like went
that's perfect. But I want to interject this as the outsider of this dynamic that took place. Like, what a dope fucking way for a confident heterosexual Black man who is a father, who is a husband, to give another Black man flowers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we can't speed past that, bro.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big deal.
I
bro.
agree. I would agree with
Right? Like, and you did it in such in such a way to where, like, it didn't feel compromising to either one of you. Right? You felt seen, you felt appreciated. I think that's just so dope, right? And that's something to celebrate, bro.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a dope experience.
As soon as I can afford the floor, I'm gonna do some more.
All right. So this is one of those conversations that I don't want to end, but we're coming up on time.
Yeah.
And there are a couple questions we like to ask, and I've got a couple surprises for you after I ask those questions.
All right.
Sometimes we pivot on those two questions depending on how you answer it, or what pops in our head through your answering. But here's the first of the last two. First is, would love to get your opinion on the Black man being seen as a beast in this world.
Wow, that's a broad question. Because my tendency, the consultant in me says, "What do you mean by beast? How do you define
This
beast?"
is your definition.
Yeah, so I try not to be flippant about things, because things are very serious. But I just think a lot about, because Shay, my wife, is very much, she's shocked every day about what goes on in this country. And for better or for worse, I grew up with parents who were never shocked about what goes on in this country, and told me never to be shocked about what happens in this country. And so there are things I just kind of assume that they think that I just ignore, or I know are wrong. And it gets to a point, and some of this comes from, reaching, what year is this? 2025?
25.
I'm gonna be 54 this year.
Yeah.
Am I doing my math? Yeah. Making it this long, this far, it's like there's only so much energy I want to give to what other people think, as I understand. And this kind of goes a little bit back to trying to be representative of the Black folk.
Yeah.
I know that we're not. I know that we're not beasts. I know that we don't exhibit beastly behavior, not in any form that is any different than any other person that might be angry about something, but it's not inherent to our race. And so part of it is just, I like to think that it's inconsequential, if that makes any sense. I know that there are powerful people that think it. I know there are people with influence that think it, but I like to think of them as inconsequential, because just because they think it doesn't make it true, and doesn't necessarily make it an inhibitor. It's maybe an obstacle to overcome, or maybe an obstacle to just go around. But I mean, it is a bit of an attitude of like, and some of this also comes. You talk about growing up and getting bullied. I mean, there's also just that moving around a lot and having to go into different environments. I had to just like let a lot of things just kind of roll off my back.
Mm.
And so I do realize that I do tend to be a little flippant, or I don't give a shit about certain things. Like, oh, so and so said, whatever. I mean, and sometimes I'll literally say, what does that mean for me today in this place right now?
Yeah.
Is worrying about that taking care of my bills or making sure my kids are okay? Sometimes some of the stuff they are saying and doing, it does, but that's kind of sometimes my line. Is that impacting me right here, right now, what I'm going to do right now or tomorrow or next week? If it's not, it's hard for me to give it a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And also, again, I don't know, I just think there's just some horrible thinking people in this world. So I just always know there are people that think that. Like, it's not a new thing. It's not new.
No.
Is it growing? I hope not. I'd like to think it's not. I hope that it's still a shrinking number of people that look at us as beasts, but I know that it's still pretty common. And the thing is, this is a worldwide thing. This is not just the United States,
Yes.
even though we tend to
That's
think
what
about
that's
the
the
United
question
States
says in the
centric,
world.
right?
Yeah.
It's like you go to any majority white country and there's lots of people who look at us as beasts. So I don't know. That's a very non-answer answer.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It sucks. For me, a lot of times I just recognize, and again, it's that where you try to avoid that pressure of being the one. But I always try to say the most I can do, or the least I can do, is represent the truth of who we are and represent that in what I do and how I walk and how I talk and how I behave. And then if there are other things I can do by talking to other people or being on a podcast and sharing that other people will hear or whatever it is, then great, I'll do those too. But I mean, yeah, until I encounter that resistance or that issue face to face or in a day to day that I have to directly confront, I don't give it a lot of energy or thought.
So, last question then. What in this world makes you feel loved?
Huh. You mean other than a nice warm drink? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, hey.
Oh man, that's a really good question. What makes me feel loved? And it really is a lot of things. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of things that if you take away 2 or 3, I'd be like, I don't feel loved anymore, even though others are still there. But I tell you, one of the things that is it's a little bit of recognition for whatever it is that is in the moment. So it could be what you just did talking about the Flowers Project, about when you see them. By the way, I called it When You See Them because the idea is when you see them, give them their flowers.
Yes.
Especially right now, this creative phase I'm in when I'm doing art and I'm doing a lot of photography work and a lot of film work and those sorts of things. And people just give me a comment. I like your work. I like what you do. I see you. I went City of Ink had their 18th anniversary show and open night was way back in February now. And I went down there and there's, lots of the artists I respect. And, one guy just found me in the crowd and just said, I love your work. I see you, and then walked on. And I was like, wow, that's just, great. And so, but I mean, it doesn't have to be my artwork. It could be anything. It's just kind of that little, like, I see you, that little recognition, of you exist and you're doing all right kind of thing. Great, big praise is great, but I mean, it really is like, it is the little things of, being seen that is helpful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Surprise time.
Uh-oh.
So, part of this podcast, what we do is we reach out to the people that love you.
Uh-oh.
And we ask them to write a letter to you to talk to us about, or talk to you specifically about how they experience you.
Oh.
And I have 2 letters.
Oh, why we gotta have 2? Is it twice as good or twice as bad?
Hey.
I
See how you
have
been
one from your lovely wife, and I have one from your daughter.
Did you catch her when she was in a good mood or bad?
I caught her. That's all you need to worry about. I caught her. That's all you need to worry about.
Which daughter? I assume it's Kylie because Zoe wouldn't have written a letter. Well, she would have written one, but
This is Kylie.
okay.
So your oldest daughter. So here we go. From your wife. I was asked to write a letter sharing your emotional journey throughout the years. Here are a few highlights I feel comfortable sharing. You are
Sounds just like her.
You are a great loving father. Your kids will always feel safe and loved with you. I'm thankful that your kids never experienced trauma from you. You found a way to express discipline and respect without hitting your children. This is a big win for your children as they move through life. Your children feel comfortable speaking their thoughts and feelings with you. I am thrilled that they have this outlet with you. I'm happy you feel the call of your artistry. As humans, we all need to find joy in our lives. This call to share your artistic talent continues to thrive in your life. I pray you continue to use your art to share your love as well as your pain. Lastly, I see the type of friend you are. You are always there for your friends no matter what. Need a graphic designer? Done. Need some bro time? A bottle of vodka is ready for a quick sip. Need a reference? No problem. Plus, your friends can trust you to give them a no judgment zone no matter what. I will always pray for the greatest life God can give you. Keep growing and staying true to who you are. What are your thoughts on that one?
It sounds just like what she was saying. That's great. I mean, it's interesting. She mentions those things because when we had children, that was a big, and it's been a big conversation around, childhood trauma. Yeah. And she had a much more traumatic childhood than I did. And so it's been a big, big thing for her. And, it's not as if it's interesting because it taught me, I don't know how I would have been as a parent without her with that perspective, as bad as that is for her to have lived through what she lived through.
Right.
Because it was because she lived through those things that she gave me a perspective of like, okay, this thing could lead to, unexpected, where everything from how you comment about your child's hair to the clothes they wear to the weight they have on their body. And that stuff is, was kind of inherent. But I mean, I grew up like we all probably grew up with the cousins that teased you about your weight, or or the even the auntie who would talk about whatever. It's like, and so I'm glad she noticed. It's one of those things that I think a lot of that I owe to her. Being able to try to relate to the kids that way. A lot of, when they were younger, I yelled a lot more. Yeah, and eased off over the years, because I can't keep up with them anymore to yell at them, but also because just things she told me, and things that she would. So that's great. You see, she doesn't mention anything about, because it's like she's all about the kids.
Yeah,
it's all about the kids. She doesn't mention anything about herself. She's so
giving.
But that has been like a big. I love it because it's a big part of our partnership, being parents and parenting in a way that we both feel like they're great human beings and that we didn't cause trauma. That was a big part of our relationship and how we parent. And that was a big part of, just, I know her wanting to have children. Like, it's like, can't be a shitty dad. Yeah. If I was thinking about it, I can't be. So yeah. I'm trying to tear up over here.
Yeah. It is what it is. All right. Now for Miss Kylie.
Yeah.
Which was interesting having this conversation with her. Just because I
I'm
met her
worried.
as
You
a
make me-
baby and she's a grown-ass
yes.
woman now. So
Yes,
anyway.
grown-ass woman.
All right. Dear Daddy, where do I even start? I love you and I appreciate you so much. All the sacrifices you've made to make sure I had everything I wanted and needed. None of it goes unnoticed. The unlimited support, the way you always showed up for me, I carry that with me every single day. When I think about my childhood, I smile. Growing up with you as my dad was really fun. I have so many memories of us at the park, going out to eat, shopping, activities, and those scary movie nights on the weekends, LOL. You made me so spoiled.
Yeah.
You're the reason shopping and sushi are two of my favorite things.
Yeah.
You supported me through every phase of my life without judgment, and I'm so grateful for that. You didn't have to, but you made it your mission to see me through school, even helping me with an on-campus apartment after I graduated. That's just who you are. You were never hard on me, but I'm pretty sure I've stressed you out more than anyone else. It's wild because the older I get, the more I realize that parents aren't perfect figures. Now that I'm an adult, I see you as the human you are. Someone who's also living life for the first time, just like me, figuring it out along the way. And from that perspective, I've come to truly appreciate all that you've done for me. Many people don't get to experience even half the father you've been to me. You always showed up. Watching your creativity evolve over the years has been such a joy. I've seen you express yourself through so many mediums: painting, music mixes, photography, and more. Akili one, DJ Akili one,
That's
back in the day, right?
That's right.
Where did I go? Oh, some of my favorite memories are from the art and music festivals you took me to, exposing me to the creativity and culture that runs deep in our city. You helped me embrace my own artistic side. You never tried to put me in a box, and because of that, I've grown into someone who's not afraid to be bold, take risks, and dream big. Creativity has always been in you. I remember when you were stressed and unhappy working in corporate. Now,
Must have been obvious.
Yeah.
now, seeing you light up when you talk about your creative work, it puts a smile on my face. I know this new journey hasn't been easy and money has been tight. But I truly believe that when you chase your purpose and stay consistent, the right opportunities will always find you. I'm so happy to see you step into your purpose, and I'm excited to watch you continue to grow. Love, Kylie.
Mm.
All right.
How's that feel, bro?
Oh, I mean, it's great. It's you know, you never really, and it's funny. I try to do this with my mom now that I'm older. She's older. You rarely hear your children, or at least I rarely hear my children articulate that in that way. Like the part about not being afraid to take risks, being
Yeah.
bold. I mean, that's something I've always tried to make sure they knew, and because I felt like that's how I was raised. You know, and I feel like it worked out. You know, so I feel like that is, and so just to hear her say that, I don't think she's ever said that before, so that's great. And she was the first. She taught me. I mean, everybody who has a child knows that
Mhm.
first one teaches you a
Mhm,
lot.
A lot.
And yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I think I also like maybe showed her too much of the culture of the city because she didn't want to leave the city. I was like, go to college, go not in the city. She didn't want to leave. So, oh man, thank you,
You're welcome.
thank you, appreciate that.
And with that, we're out.